So I'll call the building, library planning and building committee subcommittee interior subcommittee meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. And I think the only thing on the agenda, which I don't have in front of me, is to look at the design for roof screens for our HVAC units that are up on the top of the roof, to satisfy the Historic District Commission's requirement that they be shielded as much as possible, given that we are in a historic district. And Ron has something to share, and I bet I could make you a co-host if you want to show a picture. Maybe.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. Let me.
Well, I don't. You could also just talk, but just in case you have something to share, because I don't see John. Not to us. I know. I can say that our original design had been not iron.
Yep.
Couple pieces of metal that mimicked the window gratings in the front of the historic part of the building facing the common. And they came back at a $50,000, about $50,000 cost just to fabricate, not to puncture through the roof, install, and secure. So we were looking for a expensive alternative that was in a similar style.
We submitted, Ken did a drawing, and we submitted it to some talking and searching at the same time. So if I sound incoherent, that explains why. But we submitted a drawing to CTA for pricing. I'm trying to find the drawing so I can show it to you. It's not letting me in. All right, let me see if I can find the email. Basically, the pricing that came back today, this morning, was like $54,000, which we did not expect. We do not think that is a good price. And we are going to, I had sent Mark an email earlier this evening. You may not have seen it yet.
Yeah.
But basically suggesting that we look for other pricing because that number is ridiculous.
Yeah, he was going to fill in the carpentry component from CTA, but the big number was from Walpole, who did the, the front entrance. So they just went back to them, which made sense. But he said first availability at the meeting on Friday. So our job meeting got bumped to Friday. The availability of the screen was going to be 5 to 6 months because of supply chain issues and all that stuff. Yeah. But at the time,
I did not see that.
And so to wait 5 to 6 months for something that costs 50,000+, it seems like a tough ask.
Can I just ask one question because it's all kind of unique. The first, we got 2 quotes, one for 50,000 and one for 54,000.
Yeah, the first quote was for a metal design that kind of, yes, right. It kind of had a nod toward the wrought iron work that's in the front of the existing library. Couldn't match it, but complemented that. We thought that was cost prohibitive, so we went to this solution, which we thought was, and the historic, the historic commission thought it was fine. The design that Ken and Ron showed them. So we said, okay, good. We've got something that we collectively thought was going to be much less expensive. It turns out it's almost equal.
Yeah, we don't necessarily trust that price.
Right.
I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you all see this drawing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we gave to.
Yeah, make it as big as you can.
Yeah.
Zooming in on the
How's that?
Zoom in if you can.
Make it so that the
I didn't put it
screen
up.
is almost as wide as your monitor.
I didn't connect to the projection. I only have one USB.
Yeah, it's on the laptop.
Yeah, it's diamonds.
We don't have one.
It's cross diamonds.
I'm blind. But yeah, it's just on. So that was
Okay.
only $1,000. Wow.
So this is the design that Ken came up with. It's similar to, it's basically what we sketched out in the last meeting with the HDC. Posts, similar to, it's more like a fence than a wrought iron railing. I'm going to scan over here. No, it doesn't show it in this elevation. But it's a simpler design. And it's simpler materials. The price for the rail itself from Walpole didn't seem too bad. I think it was around $7,000. Let me see if I have that estimate. Proposed roof screen. Walpole was about 7,000. Capeway Roofing was about 5. Here's where we started to see significant increases. Miscellaneous metals, 9,000. Railing install, $10,000. Supervision at 5,000. Hoisting at 2,000. And then you add in their overhead and profit, and now you're looking at 53,000. So our suggestion is to shop this out to other vendors, similar to what we've been doing with some of the other items in this project recently, and see if we can get a better price. I did not see did he put in I don't remember seeing in the proposal. Factory white, no field painting. This doesn't even include painting. I didn't see anything in here about timing.
He said, so you weren't at the meeting on Friday, so you just missed that. Paul said, talking to Walpole, who at the time he was waiting for numbers, they said, I can get you numbers, but I can't get you the material for 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
So he just brought that up. So my concern is if 55,000 becomes 35,000, which would be a substantial reduction, is that a number that this committee can live with or work with? Or how? I know Historic wants this to happen or something like this to happen, and the budget being where it is, I don't know where. There's a couple proposals I want to go over tonight that we need to clean up from CTA. And so just purely from a budget standpoint, I don't know where that stands, or is this allowed to be a budget driven discussion, or this is a historic requirement, and one way or the other, we're going to put something up there.
Still an open meeting.
Great.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm curious to find out, I wasn't able to make that meeting that was held a couple weeks ago with them. So it sounds like you were all in agreement that yes, we should be putting the screen up. I still question it if you don't see it when you drive by. It's beautiful old original building. Drive by. If we don't, I mean, you can't find money that we don't have. So will the town pay for it? I mean, can we say as a committee, we can't come up with the money? We just can't.
I think that they kind of said that in the meeting. They're like, well, if you can't pay for it, yeah, but it is a desire to have it. Now, is John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's
So I have to say, I agree with Mary. I drive by it and don't notice it at all. I drive by it all the time. Every single day, all different times, and I look for it and I don't notice it. So for me, it is a budget thing, but it's also, I question the necessity of it. Understanding though, John, that the Historic District Commission has a role to play.
All we can do is take feedback, since this is, it seems like we're going from one price to a higher price. And I can bring that up at the next HTC meeting and say, what do we do next? This is what we're coming up with. We're hitting a financial brick wall in terms of a reasonable solution to correct its problem. And I mean, we certainly are not going to shut the project down. We don't have the ability to shut the project down. We don't want to shut the project down. We just wish it didn't happen. That's not the cards we're dealt. So to try to make the best of the situation that we have, I think that's kind of the alternative that we have. Is there anything we can do? Are there plantings that we can, are there trees that we can plant that, I don't know. Those are the kind of things that and it may be a year or two down the road that this stuff gets resolved. I don't have a real good answer because I don't know that we have, all the options that are available to us in terms of our low cost options, rather lower cost options.
Yeah, so
We
that's
all know
just like bottom line, and it's very simple for this committee to say, we understand the commission's wants and their requests, but you don't have the funds
Right,
left.
right. Our hope is certainly, even when you think of the design, that it is being much more affordable.
Right.
But even then, it would be a stretch because we are at.
I think what Mark is
You know.
asking, if it's 55,000, if it's 35,000, can we afford 35,000?
No,
Right.
no.
So I even get more quotes?
Well,
Well, it's like $10,000.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like maybe $15,000.
Right.
But not right now.
like if we carry up all the pieces.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just extraordinary time.
Because it's throwing numbers out.
My
if you
budgets
can.
are crazy.
I think personally, I think the best thing to do is to tap the brakes on this one.
Yeah.
We've got a design that is acceptable. I think everybody conceptually agrees that this would be a good thing to do if we can afford it. But I think now is not, we can't afford it right now. B, the market is terrible. I think it's something we gotta hang on to and circle back on, I don't know if it's next summer or whatever it is, but I think it's a valid thing to do, but we may just have to find another way to do it and another time.
Is that something that you can apply for CPC funds down the road or no?
No.
I don't-
Yeah, it's not repair and restore,
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know how those.
but do we estimate solar panels at 88,000-ish?
Yeah, like-
And I thought that the MBLC additional grant money for our silver lead certification, if we make that, was more like 165,000, which would cover
Yep.
solar panels and installation, freeing up some additional money. We could vote that, should we get that lead certification and fulfill the solar panel, the next priority, even though it's not lead related, should be to do the roof screen.
Like that money
Because it could
is
fit.
real, and so you could earmark some of that.
Yeah,
A lot of people earmark it for a solar array. Some use it toward FF&E to fill out the budget that they couldn't afford during construction. They use it for all
Yeah.
different things. So you
Yeah.
could earmark whatever's left over toward this. And then work the
I
solution
think
backwards.
that's
Yeah.
But do we still think $54,000 for this is reasonable?
Is
No.
insane.
no, we still need to get more.
Sorry.
quotes.
That's even if somebody dropped $1 million on us,
I would
we
believe-
spent $54,000.
No,
I
that's
do
also
believe
why we
15.
want.
Okay,
Right.
That's
Right.
also a whole, because
Right.
now,
Numbers are crazy.
numbers are crazy.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to just put it all on hold, like Nick suggested. Address it
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah, because I mean, when would that money be coming through with a solar array and everything like that?
I don't know when we are going to be submitting that application package.
Right, so I mean, that's gonna
Someday.
push it out. Just because
Yeah.
we get the whole,
I think HVAC is a hold up right now, maybe garbage.
John, does that seem reasonable?
I think, given everything, that's pretty much the option is to put it on hold. And I think, as Beth said, if there is additional money that may come in for leads, that we need to have a priority, to set a priority, whether this is number one priority or not, to at least have a discussion of what additional projects could be used, even if that's 2 years down the road, that we have a priority set and we know where this may fit in on the priority list, so that HDC can work with the library on coming up with a solution. I think that's a reasonable answer for right now.
You need to make a motion and vote on that. And if so, John, do you want to make a motion so that we can vote, that we had this discussion and have a.
I move that we put the roof screening project on hold, on a temporary hold, until the time comes in the near future that we determine there are additional funds that may be used, and that this would be such a priority that this project could be completed. And that this information be shared with HDC for, and if an additional joint meeting needs to be held to have that, but I would hope that there's not a whole lot to discuss. It's off the motion, sorry. Not a whole lot to discuss. It's kind of like, this is what it is, folks. So was that motion reasonably unclear?
So moved.
Put it on hold, wait till we have money. Hopefully we are in a priority to spend it on this project, basically.
Little discussion from committee members. We have Julie. Doug is not here tonight, and it was just 4 of us.
But, yeah. No, I'm in complete agreement with.
Alright,
Keeping it on hold.
and all those in favor, aye. Julie?
Aye.
John, aye. Beth,
John, aye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to make that motion, Beth.
You're welcome. What's important to you is usually important to me. Again, like, this is my 1st time in the building
I'm
process.
teasing.
We tried to
I'm
do all the
teasing.
steps, and we had missteps, and I think it's important to acknowledge that there were missteps and to try and make it right. So much as our finances will allow.
I appreciate your support on this, Beth. I'm just teasing you.
You're welcome. So I will move to adjourn the subcommittee meeting.
Yeah.
We do that? Do I? Oh,
I
darn
got
it.
something maybe too.
Oh.
Yeah. That was one of my things, and I have one more.
So that means I have to go dig through my email while we're recording a meeting. Yeah. We have a donor who wants to add a Roman numeral electric clock to the large print room to go over the window where the meeting room is. And Capital Campaign will help hire the electrician, put it out. It'll be apart from the project. The donor will cover the cost of the clocks and installation and all that. And we have a design to show, which now I have to go find.
Not, well, Ron
Unless-
was copied on
unless-
on the email, so he might be able to call it up and share it.
Do you have that, Ron, that email that Beth sent around, I don't know, midweek last week, maybe?
Yeah, let me check. Give me a second.
Well, you're looking for that. Let me
It
ask,
was November 29th, I think.
Okay.
a segue, Andy, specifically for you. A question came up from Beth at Friday's meeting regarding charter, I think charter or cable. Who's your provider out here as far as cable?
Fire or who?
And it was specifically,
Yeah, Comcast.
did,
Charter and funds?
were provisions made specifically with the cable? Was it to get it to this room?
To get a
specifically?
live draw to that closet. Mr. Berger thinks he has maps that show cable routing to the library so that we can plug it to the wall, go live, and shoot down a DCC.
So that was a punch list item that was in dispute with Griffin, that the drawing, the telecom drawing clearly shows a piece of fiber going from the MDF to this room.
Okay.
And Griffin said, no, it's not part of our scope. It's very clearly shown in the drawing. I don't know if that ever got resolved.
I know
The is there for it.
it is.
They
Okay.
ran the air duct.
All right, okay. So worst case, there's a pathway to pull something.
There is
So,
an established.
Evan came in and regarding AV and wiring and so forth, he cleaned up a lot of issues, and I don't know if this is one of them. So I couldn't remember if we had that pathway there, but if we do, so that's good.
Yeah,
We do.
it's
At
just
the time,
empty though.
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
time, I told them that there was still a dispute going on and that it was silly because it's clearly shown in the drawing. And that I couldn't understand why, right, they just forgot it and didn't want to come back, right? So, yeah, I still think, if it were me, I still think they need to come back and put it in, but I think it's one out of a rock. I guess.
But also if it's covered and there's not money, to pay somebody else to do it, and we
Right.
didn't want it.
However, then I'll bring that up with
Yes.
Paul,
Okay.
and so, and I can bring that up with him and say, this may have been dropped, but it didn't go away, and we can pick it back up.
Now,
Okay.
realistically, Griffin should come back and do that. It's not going to take anybody any time to come in and do that. It's just a pain in the butt of having somebody come over and do it.
Right. Okay.
So there's the clock faces.
So there's 4 clock faces, and I believe it is the lower.
Well, it was a combination of different hands and different faces, right? It was that face, but different hand. It was the hands from a different one, right?
That one.
Oh, it says it right. again.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared.
Face N. Which one is N?
But just the Roman numerals.
There's
And then
two
the
of-
hands are AS.
So it's the same hands.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's that one. Yeah, right.
It wasn't a combination.
Yeah.
And then the hands will be finished in a matte black.
I think that'll look good.
It's very similar to what was initially
Yeah.
proposed.
It's also similar to what's in the historic reading room, except that has a silver plate
Sure.
with small Roman numerals and a more
Yeah.
ornate thin
Yeah,
hand.
but this is like right on the jet.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll look nice.
Yeah.
Do we
Well,
need a
it's a-
motion?
Yeah. There's no.
I
we don't
moved
have
to accept the design with face in, hands AS for the adult reading room clock, electric clock.
I'll second that.
Can we amend it to large print reading room?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We have lots of reading room.
Just a point of clarification. So I was working with Electric Time on the installation of this. And then there's going to be a mechanism in the study room behind that that basically kind of sticks out of the wall. And he said, just do what you need to do, and whatever you're left with, we'll box around it or put a soffit and make it look as good as we can. So that's easy, but the installation will have to be by a local electrician. Somebody needs to find that local electrician. I don't know if the town has a go-to person or
Yes.
if, okay,
Andy gave a name to Dana.
Okay.
Dana told me today the electrician's coming tomorrow. I will be here.
Beth, on the same topic, even though it's not the same clock, for if an electrician is coming out for, because this was raised at, I think a CPC meeting, for the weights and measures in the, I think correctly described as, well, in the Wheelock Library, in the Wheelock Reading Room, if that's the right name. Does that still need an outlet
Yeah,
to be
I will
installed?
for our quote as well.
Because we talked about waiting and then just doing it separately.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Do we need to vote?
Well, I do have one
Yeah.
more question. now.
We're in the discussion.
Look, I mean, so you're gonna have the clock face right on the wall, so down the road when you go to paint,
Yeah,
you're gonna just be painting all around it, you're okay with that?
I will be doing it.
You will be doing it, I know.
I'll be long gone.
All right, that's fine. The painters will do it. Not fun.
Do we know what are the letters going to be metal or how it's going to be painted on?
I believe they're raised. I don't know the material. I thought metal. Black Numeral.
Not black.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that they were raised, but
Because I don't know if they're of a material that's then tacked onto the wall where they could be removed rather than a vinyl that's just stuck on that really couldn't be removed if you needed to paint.
Doesn't say in this letter.
I'm trying to- I don't know why I-
Because the price would be a lot of money for vinyl or expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean, vinyl would be $200.
Yeah,
But
not.
no, but then there's the mechanism, so.
Yeah, but you could get a super great antique tall clock for $5,000. So,
Yeah, I really don't know.
Does Electric Time have a website? Electric Time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do want to look at.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. I think the ballpark was 1,600 for the clock.
Yeah, they do a lot of things.
Yeah.
This says 1,900 plus $71 in shipping for the materials.
I don't know if that's custom. That's going into like. Fine, immediately, but everything they're showing is. Yeah. Nothing.
is it in Medfield?
Pardon me?
Do you know where the company is? Is it Medfield? Electric Time?
Electric Time Company, Inc.
It's,
Oh, yeah,
it
look
says,
at that. Feel
it
that.
says Medfield. Yeah. Let's see. We could do a street clock.
Look at that. Well, yeah, because I think it's kind of the custom architectural clock. Or maybe it's the bracket clock. Nope.
I mean, I'm happy to call them tomorrow just to get the details.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
approve
mean,
the
like I
design
said,
for pending what the materials are,
Sure.
Yeah.
depending
Just to
on.
double check and know what we're getting.
Is there a motion on the table?
There is. The motion was made to accept the design for the electric clock in the large print reading room. John Stevens made the motion, Julie Gray second.
Okay, but we're gonna do it pending. You want to revise the
Verification
motion?
of
Yeah,
material.
pending verification of materials. That good? Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
So I'm gonna call them to find out.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Last thing for this committee, because it might be a technology FF&E type thing, was the AV system for this room. So it's set up for the most part for somebody to stand in front of a lectern and do a presentation, a show, whatever, but that's, I'm generalizing, but that's kind of it. It's not set up for a production of any type or anything like that. So
A meeting like this, it's in the middle of the room.
So Beth was thinking this way and we ended up going this way. So you want to describe, Beth, what you were thinking we were going to get, and then the committee can discuss if we want to pursue getting there, I guess, or through what avenue. It might be outside of the contract, looking for a donor support or something.
So the room came with 2 handheld mics with no mic stands and 2 lavalier mics, 1 for each side, which you can combine and have 2 and 2. We need tabletop and tall mic stands and possibly another rack to accommodate additional microphones. I don't know what the cost would be, but the idea is we could then put on a symposium with 2 or 3 speakers, or 4 speakers, a radio play, which we had to get extra microphones with 8 or 10 speakers, and open, a band. It would suffice for an open mic night, but not for a band who might bring in their own equipment, but might not. Those kinds of things. And those were all things that I asked for. I have purchased out of the library supply budget additional AV components because there's only HDMI input. So we can't plug in a Mac, we can't plug in gaming systems, older ones. We can't plug in the VCR if someone brings in a VCR. We have to now buy all these adapters to fit each side of the room because we could have it in use for both of those types of devices at any one time. We need longer cabling to get to the center of the room and extension cords because there are not outlets conducive to where people are generally sitting in the central part of the room. So we could get up a quote and a wish list. I'm more likely to bring it to capital campaign. I know our budget is very low, but it was just like another area where somebody actually this time did sit down with me, say, what are you going to use the room for? The movie night, gaming, author visits, symposium, our own mini Dragon Con, a concert. And I got a room set up with 8 cable TV cameras to plug in around the perimeter and have 1 speaker at each end of the room and a podium, which wasn't what I needed or asked for. So that's all. I wasn't heard. We have additional needs. I'll be getting quotes. I'm probably just going to go right to capital campaign.
How big is an expense is this possibly?
I don't know how much it is for a microphone or additional stands. I can tell you like a gold plated HDMI cable to Mac converter that'll get you to the middle of the room so you can project is about $40 through WB Mason. You can buy it cheaper on Amazon, but they're not usually my first procurement option for Town of Grafton. It's go through the MHEC or state combined vendor of WB Mason or Staples. We want something.
We don't have $5,000 to buy this kind of stuff.
So many other needs too. I bought clocks for all the meeting rooms out of my library budget because I didn't want to bring that expense to this group. It feels piddly, frankly.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It does.
What's this
But
room
it's
called?
part of making your building functional, and we should,
is,
deliver
but we
the
spent
keys
all our
to
money
you
on
functionally.
We spent all the money for that on soil. I just gave you a bill, Andy, for $5,000 worth of more book parts because the hold shelves that we designed for the front of the building don't work with our security gate system. So we couldn't put up that shelving and we relocated it. But I know this, it's not on the bill, the bills to be paid, something, maybe there's not money and now I have to go find money to pay for the parts that I have to have so we can put the materials out for people. And we also want to be able, when we open nights and weekends, when we get our gate, we want to roll all those holes into the sorting room so that people who come in on Sunday for Girl Scouts aren't going through and looking for their stuff and taking it without checking it out. So the shelving actually never would have worked anyway. But like, there's all kinds of little things like that, 5,000 here, and it adds up.
We should talk about this in our meeting when we hear
I
about
told my
how much
room-
time we have left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like, I don't know what I have left for. You know, it turns out we actually need $35,000 more shelving for the children's room because we can't, there's no growth for that collection. So where is that gonna come from? I told Sarah we'll prioritize it and bring it a little time to capital campaign. You're not getting it all at once. But the books are tight and she's afraid to order new books because there's no space for them.
Do we know, Doug, how much of the money that you guys have raised, are you planning to spend it all? Are you planning to keep X% in reserve for future projects? What's your budgetary plan for that money?
We don't have Doug tonight.
Oh,
did.
sorry, I thought it came in.
Yeah, no, he's in Tennessee and if he's here, I didn't know.
I mean, I just saw somebody walk by. I figured it was Doug. I didn't know. You're about 1 inch big, maybe.
So, let me see.
Well, chapter 2.
So Grafton Public Library is the host, that's me. Oh, Doreen. Doreen is in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is she
sorry,
allowed
we
in?
missed her.
Can she talk?
She's muted at the moment. She can
Oh,
unmute
okay.
though.
I am here. Sorry, I had to go let my dog out. But I am here.
Hi.
Hi.
Close your meeting and then you can.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, it's a lot of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you here being heard. And one of my big concerns has been feeling like, sometimes I had meetings with people and what I conveyed never got translated. And sometimes they didn't even meet with me, like security cameras, which are not where they're usable from a secure library security standpoint. So like I'm going back and working with some of these vendors. Can we move them? Do I need to go to somebody else to find money to buy more and just add them? And it's frustration at the end of what should be a celebration for the project. So,
Well, I'm not saying we can't talk about it
Yeah.
all, but I think it'd be better if we talk about it in this next meeting.
Okay.
So then you can find out money versus what your needs are. Because we definitely need to know what's left and what we need to prioritize. So,
All right, so do you have any, do you take public input at this meeting?
yes,
Wanna yell
any
it?
public input.
Thank you. And then do you have a next meeting scheduled that you would like in the agenda? Okay.
I don't think
perfect.
so.
And somebody want to make motion to adjourn? This part of the meeting?
I'm moved to adjourn.
I'll second. Oh.
Yeah, well, John just wants
I'll just second. You. that's fine.
Sorry.
Bye.
41.
Thank you. It was so
Yeah, no
much.
problem. I sent it to you guys already.
You're awesome.
Yeah. All right, that's
41
done.
and a half. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
you got it. 6:41, you're in. You need, I think you need to take roll call.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a roll call. and just say, Beth,
Here.
Lisa here, Lee here, John,
John's present.
Colleen. Doreen, did you leave?
Oh, no, I'm here. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, Mary.
Okay, I'm across the room, so I'll.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I can hear everybody else fine. So if you ask me something and I don't respond right away, if you all kind of look at the camera, I'll probably get the idea. Thank you.
That's it, right?
Yeah, no problem, right?
No, no.
Okay. So Lisa sent out the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review?
Or, no, I did. I did.
Same.
I know it's the same one I sent
I
out right away.
reviewed
Yeah.
when you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't remember there being.
Thank you. Okay, so, somebody want to make a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion to accept. November 1st, yeah. November 1.
Yeah. I'll second.
Beth,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
John,
John, I.
Green,
Aye.
Mary, I. Andrew, training for now. Okay, Claire, motion carries. Andy, Bill?
Yes,
I love it.
yes, we have some. I actually sent out 3 more this afternoon because that reminded me that there were, no, really nice, reminded me, and then, so the AWE, there's also 2 biblioteca ones. But it's fine, so everything that's here, I think I said in my email, is within the numbers we've been carrying. So nothing, the overall number isn't going up anywhere. This is all stuff that we've already looked at POs for. We've already, agreed to the overall cost. So there's nothing new here. This is just sort of the latest installment. So for AWE learning, these are childhood computers and software that they were using in the children's library. This is in the total of $9,103. This is again for hardware and software for early childhood learning.
I make a motion that we pay $9,103 to AWE.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I do want to note that I have a donor who is gonna pay for a portion of this though. So we'll pay the whole thing and then the project budget will get a transfer of, I think, $1,250 back to the fund. I believe it's $1,200.
Very nice, yeah.
Yes, in memory of Peter Coronetta. Peter J. Coronetta.
What?
Cornetta, Cornetta.
Hope I will call back.
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Julie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doreen?
Aye.
Mary, aye. So motion carries.
All right, we have 2 coming up for biblioteca. So if anybody is remembering correctly, we already paid some invoices for biblioteca. That was for the book sorting machine. These 2 are for the RFID gates and for the self-check station. Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion for the biblioteca in the amount of $21,582.25 for the RFID.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hope I will call back.
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Julie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doreen?
Aye.
Mary, aye.
I'm going to make another motion to pay biblioteca for the self-check stations in the amount of $20,853.70.
I'll second.
Hope I will call back.
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Julie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doreen?
Aye.
Mary, aye.
All right. Next up is a miss by me. This is D.A. Sullivan's invoice from June for $2,700.
I make motion to pay DA Sullivan $2,700 for a June 2021 bill.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hope I will call back.
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Julie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doreen?
Aye.
Mary, aye. So motion carries.
Next one I have is for Tucker Library Interiors. I think we had held off before because the last furniture wasn't in, so we're waiting for that to come in. So everything's in.
Well, the furniture is all, we're still waiting for stuff. But,
So this is specifically
It's-
for furnishing.
okay, yeah.
From
If
the
it's,
same company?
yeah, it's
Was
just
there a
trickling in.
different PO for the shelving?
I don't know. Did we split it up? We must have split it up. They definitely had to close.
Tell, like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought they didn't bill
100% against the shelving
They-
portion.
okay.
It might have been one
That's correct.
PO, but
They-
it had line
Right,
items.
right, there were
Okay.
two things, right, there were two things we're holding off on, the remaining furniture they hadn't come yet, and then the rest of the shelving.
Okay, all right, then yes. All right, the
So we'll have
couch
another bill from them.
for
And the
shelf,
shelving
yeah, I
comes
think
in,
for
yeah.
shelf. Okay. If you want to see the couch and the chair, they are in the staff room and they are very hard, but very pretty.
All right, I make a motion to pay Tucker Library Interior the amount of $11,386.20.
I'll second. Discussion. Vote by roll call, Beth.
Very hard and very pretty.
Aye. Lisa, aye.
Julie. Aye. John.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
Mary, aye. Carrie.
All right,
They're
next-
not meant to be like residential couches. They're just not.
Yeah, we don't want people.
They
sleeping
never
here.
are.
Right. Yeah. We want to go home.
They never are. They have a firm sit.
All right, next one is for Weston Sampson. I talked to their accountant and had them send me what they've invoiced us to date and what the total is and check them off. And what I was carrying in the budget was actually $8 more than what their final invoice is. I feel great about that.
Every dollar is
I
important.
feel like we should go buy lottery tickets for $8.
Right.
We can
Right.
scrap the scratch the screen.
So this invoice is for $13,100.
So Western, I make a motion to pay Western Sampson $13,158.29.
I'll second. Discussion. Vote by roll call, Beth.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
Julie. Aye. John.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
All right, I'm just. That's right. So, the next one is for, DRA. This invoice is, for $1,348. I just wanted to mention that I have a note into Ron and Ken, they're looking into this. What they're showing on their invoice for a total fee, if they're 100% billed out, is different and actually lower than what I've been carrying that was in their proposal. So in their proposal, their fee outside of some extra stuff, including additional CA and landscaping, was $1,085,000. No, $1,085,000. What they're showing in this invoice for a total at 100% with those things taken out is actually 1,027,122.
But one more time, 1027,
122.
122. Thank you.
So I just have a question into him. I just have a copy of the proposal. I don't have the actual executed contract. So I'm just going back to them to say, what did we, is it the 1085 or is it something else? Just so we can reconcile and be square.
I'll make a motion.
And I have an email into Ken to get together to reconcile and see what's what.
Okay, DRA $1,348.
I'll second. Discussion. Vote by roll call, Beth.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
Julie. Aye. John.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
All right, last one is CCA's requisition number 24. This one is basically a reduction in retainage, right? So things went from 5% to 2.5% or 1% in most cases. It's all these subcontractors that have been done, steel, concrete, all these guys. So it comes out to $173,080.62. 173,080.62.
I'll make a motion about the question. When you talk about retainage reduction, that means like, they said 5% of the job's done, now 2% of the job's done. Is that what that means?
We withheld 5% and now we're only withholding 2%. So
Okay, got it.
every time they billed us 100, we paid them 95. So we kept 5%.
Okay,
And so that's always been sitting off in the corner. And now we're down to 12 to 14 punch list items. So it's going to be monetized shortly by Ron's office, but in the meantime, going from 2 to 1% still leaves us 10 times more in value than the worth of these remaining punch lists. So I felt totally comfortable just reducing.
Right, because you're still holding on to 140,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if
Okay.
each item was worth 10,000, which it isn't, we're still covered.
Yeah.
So
Got it. All right, so I make a motion that we pay CTA Rex number 24 in the amount of $173,080.62.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hope I will call back.
Aye.
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
John,
I,
Maureen,
Aye.
okay, sorry.
Nothing further.
I do want to say, Andy, thank you for continuing to do this. Like, as you're
Yeah.
saying, I'm gonna follow up on this. I'm like, wait a minute, he doesn't work for us anymore. So
I'm
thank
happy
you.
to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to voice this on the market.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have
I appreciate it very much.
But bottom line, have anything left, or how do we figure out how to help Beth and her team?
So there are two things I want to do. I want to make sure that so right now I'm still showing that we're in the black by $45,290.
45,000, one more time.
$290.
Thank you.
You need to wait to hear from me first.
However, right, there's some things still outstanding. I don't, I didn't check with William to see if he had purchased anything in the last month. And I have a note into accounting just to make sure that there's nothing else sitting out there. It happened in the DPW project. Some other bills came in. They were like related to borrowing and stuff that I never saw. And so I'm sitting here carefully managing the money. And meanwhile, there's like $80,000 in charges coming in. So we get to the end of that project, I think, woo, we came in, skimmed it right in. Nope, we're over budget by like 80 grand. So I had a note in the accounting. I have already asked once and she didn't really respond. So I'm going to talk to her and just make sure that we're good.
She's new, right?
Yeah, but she's been on this for a while.
Oh,
And
okay.
honestly, I've gone through the invoices. I've gone through her billing, the billing detail that she sent me. So I do think we're okay, but I just, I need to hear from her.
So Mark,
Okay, so it's a good segue to what I've got. And this is coming from the don't shoot the messenger point of view. But so that we've got a few outstanding proposals which this committee needs to act on. And a lot of these are old, but they're old issues, but they're new proposals. And the timing was horrible when a lot of these issues came up. The PM left from CTA, then the senior PM left, and then the executive PM jumped in. He doesn't know anything. Took him months to get caught up, months to get quotes, but now we've got them. So I'm going to walk you through. I've just got 4, but I want to walk you through these and get your opinion, because some are less than others, but some of these have hefty price tags.
Start low.
Well, I'm gonna start.
I think we should start high.
High.
Start high.
You start high?
Let's start high.
All right.
Yeah.
Guys, everything I have, I'll start high. First one is a tough one. This is the relocate the humidifier unit that's in local history, and to the tune of $19,846.95.
It's actually in,
PCO 118.
19,000.
$19,846.95.
So please explain this.
So in Beth's office, adjacent to Beth's office, so
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
so
217.
there's a unit on the wall, which is unsightly, but it's there. And if it were to function correctly, there's a pipe that's going to go down through the floor, into the ceiling, into the children's
That's
or the
above the
teens
teen
area,
space.
young adult, and then go out. So you're going to see another exposed pipe, but that's the way it was designed. Fine. So then the issue came up was, hey, do we have to have this here? Can we do something else? And we went way down this rabbit hole, and we came out 4 months later with proposal to in the history room to put something above the ceiling. And when it was first designed, it was like 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. It was way too much. It's not a big room. And so then we went back and forth, and we finally settled on a design that engineering has signed off on. But to kind of undo what was prepped and to redo what was never designed, so we're doing this after everything around it is done, is $19,846, and the bulk of it is mechanical, which is $8,700, and then the next biggest are like electrical, and then it's after that it's all patching and painting and ceiling fixes and so forth. So I should say veterans was oh, it's an electrical unit, from veterans, $8,700, and then $3,000 of controls. So it's almost 12,000 of that 19 is by veterans between the equipment and controls.
And what is the, why was it in Beth's office to begin with?
I walked in one day and that's where it was. It's supposed to go up on the roof.
No, it was supposed to be above the ceiling, above the janitor's closet, but when those rooms got rearranged.
Oh, the CAD drawing is left
It didn't get moved. And so then it was shown in a location where it couldn't be. And so there were a lot of discussions, or a myriad of discussions about what was required in terms of pitch for the condensate pipe and all these other things, and where it could be and where it couldn't be. And so they ended up there. Because one of the choices was to put it in the conference room, the public conference room next to the local history room. But that was deemed as part of this thing could be hot, and so they didn't want to put it in a place where the public could touch it. So we put it in a private space instead, knowing that it was unsightly and whatever. So I guess so that's why
I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, we brainstormed several separate times in terms of trying to find a reasonable location for this thing to be. And there were several different opinions that seemed to change over time about what was actually required and what was possible. So, messy.
Can I ask why it's being moved? Is it unsightly? Like, does
Well,
it
where
function?
it is, what it was never intended to be, but that was from an engineering standpoint, that's where it wants to be to function correctly. But now aesthetically and so forth, it's just not where you typically see something like that. It'd be in a closet, it'd be above the ceiling, you wouldn't see it.
It's taking up program space where we need to have guest seating, file cabinets. We were going to have a Xerox in there and we had to move it because we can't fit it.
It's just functionally,
Never
it's weird.
designed
It'd be literally like having a piece
People
of equipment here that you'd say, why is this here?
Yeah.
A big exposed radiator.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you mount it up higher, not above the ceiling, but on the unit or something, like it's in an exposed area, is it on the first floor?
No,
So it's upstairs.
it's upstairs.
And then
Yeah.
it just seemed like a lot of design for a small room. And we talked about if you went to Lowe's and just bought a dehumidifier unit for $200 and plugged it in, and you just have to run the condensate somewhere. Physically, functionally, that would probably work. And so
Right.
we went from that extreme to this extreme. And this has been revised, and this is
And this is for the archive, right?
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be humidity and temperature control for
Right.
both the archive room and the adjacent meeting room, with the idea you can take items out of the archive, still be in that closed room and protect them.
One of my questions, since we've gotten to the spot, has been, isn't there a residential, right? Isn't there something that's residentially scaled in price that would work similarly?
Because they're not huge rooms.
No, and the
No, there's
subcontractor said this is a Ferrari
Yeah.
that has a lot more capacity, that they're nervous about this thing being overkill for that size room. They're like, it's never gonna, it'll do the job, but it's like, it's even on idle, it's can do too much.
Yeah.
That's why I keep looking at it going, and nobody wants to throw it away because we own it, but I don't know if throwing it away or doing something with it is, it seems like that might be it doesn't make sense, but it might be the lower cost option to get some sort of a residential scale thing that would do the job. And then we have to figure out what to do with this thing that's brand new, but we don't need it.
it almost seemed like the piece of equipment was designed for much bigger space, so they had to control it down to do the minimal amount of work
Right.
possible, which is a waste of equipment. And so, I mean, you might try the residential approach and see how it works. And if after a couple months it doesn't work or whatever, you get through a couple, heating cycles from winter and night and summer and when it's moist, see how it goes and then respond accordingly. But it's a lot of money now to move it. So, and this is, and we've had took this a lot of different ways. And this, as far as doing what was requested, this is where we ended up. But the question is something in
And the
between.
engineers didn't budge at all on what.
This, yes,
would be?
it's
I
been,
mean,
well, they're trying to make you have work. As Andy said, we've got this
Yeah.
thing, we don't want it to see it. Can we put it above the ceiling? We do that, that creates some more
Right.
issues. And how do we resolve
But
those
would it be
issues? And
less to go a different unit?
so we did look at,
And solid, like. No, it's not.
No,
that
I-
potentially would be, that's what we talked
I think
about.
that
Yeah.
that would be right. I think that part of the problem is we've got this thing, and so we're trying to
But I
make it
think
work, and I'm not
We're
sure
gonna
that's
be
really.
shopping for this thing.
Right,
That
right.
is too much.
right. I'm concerned not just with what it costs right now, but also from hearing from the subs, I have concerns about the long-term
Yeah.
viability of that
We need-
thing.
We need some
Doing-
simplicity.
Right, yeah,
We don't need a super complicated feature. And again, I mean, the rooms, 2 rooms are smaller than
Yeah.
half of this.
Right.
Yeah. It's a quarter of this.
Right.
So it's kind of ridiculous to have something so souped up. Yeah.
Do you know if they put anything in when they historical society? They put in for like don't they have a special room there?
in South Grand,
Yeah.
I doubt it. But
Well, we have a
Yeah,
unit for
exactly,
that.
right, right.
Good for them.
It would take care of the entire building.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt it. I mean, that's an old issue. Like,
But yeah, they're putting the Ferrari.
Oh,
Not
that's
on
right.
No,
Yeah,
we would.
yeah.
Yeah,
We,
right.
I mean, I don't know entirely what, but it just sounds like we need to simplify it. Because especially, I think, the long run, dealing with it. you know, I don't know.
Originally, only the storage space was supposed to be humidified and temperature controlled.
Right.
The closet, not the adjoining room.
I would suggest that we try to find other options unless you already have. It sounds like you spent a lot of time on this.
I
Like,
know.
We spent a lot of time on the commercial one, what to do, how do we make this thing work, where do we put it to make it unseen, but we didn't go too far down the residential.
Or even the rest, I'd like to know if we had it done right size. What does that do to our pricing?
Yeah, without having to say residential.
Yeah, just a right size unit. Will that lower the cost significantly, or is it still gonna be a bunch of money, that
Right.
much money?
Right, would it make more sense
To get this stuff done, but maybe you won't have the fear of the hot coils. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is.
Okay, so Ron, you and I can follow that up and see, we can talk to Tyler and just see if if we scrap what we have and were to start over, knowing the size of the room that it's ended up in, what would be recommended? And then see what that looks like.
Yeah, without going for
Yeah.
the super high end,
Yeah.
like.
And really just 218, 219
Right.
doesn't need it. Those materials, if we took them out, they wouldn't
It's
be out
three,
there extensively.
Right, that
Yeah.
helps
so
out
just the
too.
one room, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's number one. Number two. Okay, this is the gate right outside here, the stairs. So we have by contract and we have physically here where it ended up in the closet, or where it is, but the gate, the physical gate that was fabricated for the stairs to prevent after-hours programming from people going upstairs. Question came up, valid question. That the gate was going to be on a wheel because it's a big, heavy gate, and it was going to be on a wheel that slid into a pocket of the wall, and you rolled it out and locked it. And the question was, over time, that wheel is going to leave this, because it's heavy, it's going to leave a mark on the floor. It's going to be unsightly. Is there something else we could do? So this has been revised twice. We looked at a couple different panels, couple different configurations, settled on this, but still 10,774.01. So the question is, do we go with this, or do we just, we could go back to what was designed and just install what we've got. 115.
That's the one where you ended up with a freeform material in the door.
We're looking at acrylic panels. Yeah.
Freeform and multiple.
Yeah.
It's basically baby gate for the.
Exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
But
After hours security separation.
right, 'cause there's a post there. for it.
Right, that's where it lands.
Yeah.
Against that. And it's not just it's a baby gate with a crash bar. So if you get stuck upstairs, somebody locks the gate and there's an incident and you come flying down the stairs, you hit the crash bar and you're out. So it's got to operate like that door right there with the crash bar. So it's a juiced up half door. But when you get a door out of solid wood that's 6 foot wide by 4 foot tall, whatever it is, it's heavy. It's a big, heavy slab of wood. And that's when the question came when it was delivered was, ooh, this is a lot of weight. Is there something else we can do? And 6 months later, it's been at least that. This is where we are. So this is something you don't physically have to do. We already own something, but it was requested. It's been revised twice, and this is where we are.
Who requested that against Jane? Was it staff or?
No, Andy brought up the point of the wheel and the
Let's get it.
And so at the time it was a conversation of, long term, is this going to leave a mark? This is so heavy, it's got to leave a mark. What's this going to look like? Can we look at something else? And then
especially when it's not close to the door. So
It's not gonna get used a ton, but it is gonna get used. It's not like it gets closed every night.
No, it will be closed probably almost every Sunday, like every Saturday, so that we can have a Sunday program. And I'm even getting requests for scout meetings on Friday night. Pinewood Derby, they want to, I don't have any staff I can pay to come in, and I don't have a gate to secure the building, I'm sorry. They want to do their Pinewood Derby pickup and registration here, that would be awesome.
Registration, yeah.
But it's Friday night.
I'm like.
But
Yeah.
so it could potentially get used 150 times a year. Can you put we have all that beautiful marble and stone. Could you do an inlay for the track that would support it and be level for people to walk over and not trip over?
That'd be more than $10,000.
We have the money for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, because we
Yeah.
got $45,000.
Right.
wait till I get through all of it.
Yeah.
No, I know.
So in theory, right.
Right.
All right.
So hang on to that one.
Yeah.
Next is
It's just, can I clarify? It's to completely redesign and build a different gate than the slab of wood already sitting.
And installed everything.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And wait, it was how much?
$10,800.
774 and a penny.
Penny was
Plus or- plus or minus, I know,
Scratch
right.
$8 worth of scratch tickets.
Next up is 117, and this is for the entry vestibule of the existing library. had radiation in it. If you're walking in, there's some panels, and behind the panels, there's some old cast iron radiators. So those have gone, those don't function anymore. And it was realized we don't have anything to put back. So this is to put a unit heater behind one of those grills. And the cost is $10,718.54. My thought on that, so that space should be tempered. It doesn't need to be 70 degrees, but it needs to be tempered. But the room just inside that vestibule is heated. And so I wasn't sure, Andy, I'd like your thoughts. If we undercut that door, or we put a louver in the door, something to allow the heat in that room to just kind of filter into the vestibule, then you could, by default, temper that space. Nothing's going to freeze. That's the concern. If it gets so cold, if there's, I don't know if there's a dry head in that room or
Yeah, it's
it's
dry.
dry. So I guess freezing isn't an issue, but I think we could get heat into that space. You know, if we it's just a simple undercut of the door. So I'd have to look at to see what that looks like. What is it?
It's about an inch right now. I
Oh.
think.
So this is when you walk in the main doors.
Yep.
And there were two heaters on either side, right?
They're recessed
Yeah,
behind
the
the grill.
grills,
Yep.
okay. And now they're gone?
Well, the old ones are. Right.
Yeah,
So we
They're all
don't,
gone.
and so if we want to
Oh, well,
put,
they got left in some place.
so if we want to put heat back in that space, then we'd have to take out the cast iron and put something else in there, and that's what this is for. If we want to get heat into that space, that's why I was thinking, undercut the door, put a louver in, or something. So I think there might be a workaround on this.
is this a staff request or is this just like? hey,
No, this
one
was
more thing?
a.
Okay, that we picked up
Yeah.
on.
This was, there's no heat in here. It's kind of like transfer grills. Because it's, right, there's a ceiling, but. No, yeah, there's nothing about, no,
And
there's a light.
It's like a telephone booth.
There's a
Yeah,
light-
that's
there's a
right, yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Do we need heat in there?
We have it now.
Well, I think that's why I think Mark's idea is a good one. We could take a look at undercutting the door. So there is some movement, some air movement between the two. So it's not ever going to probably get cold enough that something's in there to freeze.
Okay.
I think it's worth doing. That's the low cost option. And if we end up having a problem, we can always bring over there's a solution. I mean,
So this is to do the work now after everything around it is done. So if you did it now or 9 months from now,
It would be the
it'll be the
same,
same.
or it might go down.
There you go, exactly. So physically, the work that needs to be done isn't going to be any worse 9 months, a year from now than it is today. So if we can do something, we can look at that. And if, you know, I just can't visualize architecturally what that door looks like. And if there's an opportunity to introduce a bigger undercut or a louver or
we
something.
can look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, glass.
It's oak with glass panels. It's a double swinging French
Yeah, two.
door.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then beyond that, there's a screen and then the oak doors to the exterior.
Next this is a low hanging fruit, I think, PCO 120. And this is for the ADA exit signs where we had to introduce a graphic to the signs. And this is for 1,855.66.
1,865?
55.66.
So that's the correct week.
You don't like my song?
Yes,
No, it's perfect.
Yeah,
It's actually kind
exactly.
of genius. that
It's
you-
perfect,
yeah.
however, yeah.
Wanna be-
This is, yeah, you need.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, you make a motion for this one, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, this one to me, I think we should do, and the one, trying to write and talk at the same time. There's a companion one for this that I didn't bring, that I was supposed to bring, was the vestibule handicap button, the wave button. So we've got a temporary
Oh,
thing
yeah.
there. I don't know if you have that with you, Andy, or Ron, if you're still with us, if you have the cost of that. But, so that was a requirement, ADA requirement. These are an ADA
It's like a
requirement.
touch,
Some-
it's a motion sensitive.
It's a motion. It's what we have there now is temporary. It's
Yeah.
just a 2x,
Yeah.
but, so it's just to kind of beautify what is there, but functionally it's going to act the same. So our initial response with Ron was these are both electrical items, Griffin Electric. And they looked at these kind of in a bubble, as though they were gonna have a guy, it was gonna cost them eight hours to do this. And it was gonna cost them 8 hours to do that. And our thought was,
It's to be 8 hours to do that.
yeah, can we do both? If the timing is right and these come in, if we can time it, so when the new fixtures come in with the post, can we have one guy for a day and do them both and maybe approve on a not to exceed?
Yeah.
So it's not gonna get any worse than that. I didn't bring that was the last one I was supposed to bring that I don't have, so.
I don't have access to it, but it was something along the lines of $6,000.
Yeah, it was high, like 5,800, something like that.
And and we went back to CTA, and I think they came down a little bit on the electrical, but we still had the question of why the millwork was so expensive. Because it's a wood post that the actuator would be located on in the vestibule.
Right.
To control the doors. And we had asked them to group, as Mark had just described, group this work together. But I don't remember seeing any revised pricing that showed these items grouped together to save on labor.
Now, when we talked about the other day, he thought, yes, that makes sense. I'll talk to Griffin, but if he did the work on the paddles and then these fixtures came in 5 months later, then he's still going to end up having a foreman sitting here for a day to do that and a day to do this. So the kind of the gentleman's agreement was, can you make a good faith effort and try to time this work so that the level of oversight is reduced as much as you can. And so we might save, $500 to $1,000 by doing that. But the not to exceed limit would be this plus that, whatever that total is. But both of those, that work has to be done. That's we promised the building inspector, and so we're moving forward with that. So I'd recommend approving those on a not to exceed, and I can talk to Griffin. The cabinet unit heater, we can look at the stair gate. We can maybe discuss further, and the dehumidifier, we'll look at smaller sized units.
So I make a motion that I'm gonna do two motions, is that okay? All right, I make a motion that we pay $1,855.66 for the ADA exit sign. Thank you. You already did.
Is it an invoice or a change order or what?
That was
Is a change order that we?
PCO 120.
Yeah, that we approve, I think approve or change order. Yeah. Come here.
Well, I think
Yeah,
that's
so
on the other one.
No, it'd be both. It'd be
Oh,
both. So
both.
this would be a not to exceed.
All right, now I'm gonna revise my motion. I'm sorry. That's why I thought I was doing
think we
two.
should do the two of them
Together. Yeah,
And
not
with
to
the not to
exceed.
exceed number.
All right, so let me redo this.
So what would be the not to exceed?
I gotta-
$8,000.
Yeah, I have to look up that other one.
All right, so I
I'll
make
try
a
to look it up while we're
motion
talking.
to pay PCO number 120 and PCO
Oh,
117.
oh, no, I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking it up.
Oh, all right, I'm regrouping here, I'm sorry. I make a motion that we complete the two ADA projects that include the exit signs and the vestibule handicap button, not to exceed $8,000.
Yeah, pending verification.
Pending verification from DA Sullivan. You second that one too?
Oh, yeah. I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
All right.
Sorry. Hope I roll call back.
Any discussion? I have a
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, the piece of plywood that is holding the button at the right space. My understanding is actually everything, all the guts, the wires, the button, everything is fine, except there's an ugly piece of wood Is that true?
Not really, because the wiring is exposed, it's covered with it's surface mounted, a piece of plastic that's covers the wiring.
Mhm.
And this would hide everything in the wall, hide everything, run it and like into the bench and then poke out of the bench, so you'll never see any wiring and so forth. If you were gonna build it, this is the way you would build it,
Yeah,
versus if you were to do something after the fact, you'd end up with that. So, but that's what it does. It makes it look like it was there to begin with.
and there's no other cheaper.
Yes, there is. If you
A
had a
polished
nice,
piece of wood and a nice coil over the wire and it's done.
to get a like a metal tube painted white, metal square tube or painted black like at the bottom of the stairs, and have the wiring exposed just like it is, and avoid all that. I mean, it functions right now. It's purely aesthetic.
Well, from the prices we've been seeing, I don't know if that putting up a painted metal tube would be much less expensive.
Right?
The prices we're seeing coming in from CTA.
Yeah, so paint it black and then put a silver coil over the exposed
Is
wire.
that what, are you saying that that's preferable? Or are you concerned about?
I'd say
because of the
$6,000 to make it look pretty.
Well,
If there's a vandalism.
I don't think, yeah,
issue
I
there,
don't think
right?
it's necessarily just about the looks, it's because
Okay.
you do wanna have all that, you don't wanna have any of that exposed, you don't want it to be, you don't want it to, when the place gets, you don't want it to get banged into, you
Yeah.
want it, you do want the wiring to,
Yeah, we want it to be permanent and never think about it again.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
I don't have that. I know, it sounds like, it is a lot. But, you know what, when they do the automatic doors, like, it's $10,000.
Right,
So
yeah,
it's expensive.
yeah.
Only one. Only one is electrical.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. No
Any
further
other
questions.
discussion? Go by roll call, Beth,
Aye.
Lisa, Julie,
I,
John, Doreen.
Aye.
One.
Um,
No,
I'm all set. I'll keep trying to look for this PCO as we talk. The only other thing is just an update on the punch list. We're truly down to like 12 or 14 items. Most are aesthetic, finish related. It's been difficult to get a lot of subs back, which happens a lot, but what's left is not difficult, except for there's one item which is potentially encompasses a lot, and that is, so we have a lot of mechanical equipment, and it comes from the manufacturer with preset controls, what it can and can't do. On top of that, the engineer has specified controls that he wants, how the building wants it to function, how much air goes into which rooms and so forth. Sometimes there's a disconnect between what comes out of the box from the manufacturer and what they're trying to make it do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The veterans, the mechanical contractor, is saying, they raised a question and said basically, hey, wait a minute, do you really want to do A, B, and C? Because I don't think these units came that way. And the response basically was, yes, that's how it was designed, that's how we want it. So veterans is digging their heels in and saying, we don't think that's, what you're asking us to do is contractual work. We think that's extra work. And the engineer said, disagree, but on the table as of a week ago is a $100,000 proposal from veterans. Which is now back with the engineer to review to see if the pro controls. So, tweaking, that might be $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, $100,000. That's a whole new system. So it's back to the engineer to review to see if he agrees with veterans' argument or even a part of veterans' argument. And if he comes back and says, all right, I'll give you, $20,000 I can see maybe an argument there, but $80,000 no, or whatever it comes back with, but I'm assuming veterans, unless it's either way, right now, the town's in a tough spot, because if the engineer agrees with veterans for anything over $20,000, that's a big expense for the town. If he disagrees, then veterans, I imagine, is going to dig their heels in and fight. So what we talked about this at Friday's job meeting, and collectively, I was suggesting that if we issued a CCD, which is a construction change directive, and we just told CTA, we are telling you to do the work, and we're gonna figure this out after the fact, which gets the library functioning the way the engineer designed it, but then potentially exposes the library to a mediation meeting somewhere down the line where you're somewhere between $0 and $100,000. So it's either we wait and resolve that now, or we issue the CCD and fight it out later.
I'm sorry, I'm so slow tonight. This is to do programming of controls of what?
The mechanical systems, HVAC.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, what's not working right now? Is there something not working?
Well,
What's the risk to the town, right?
Well, we know the ERV,
Yeah,
the rooftop
ERV.
ERV isn't working, but that's a separate item. The claim was that it got hit by lightning, and there's a panel that was fried. If you look at the pictures, it was burned. The pushback from the engineer and Evan actually was getting hit, rooftop units getting hit by lightning. I get that, but it seems odd that if this big piece of equipment, only one little card got burnt and nothing else got hit.
Right.
So Evan which I think is a good argument. So now it's back to them, but that's a separate thing. That went down in August or
That's
September.
separate?
That's separate.
Because that was $100,000 repair. I thought.
No, that was only like 12,000.
So before you go to the next thing, so for the lay people in the room, if the ERV isn't working, do we care?
Yes, because there is a unit, so the people are being affected by that, where stale air.
That's what I'm asking,
Yes.
right? So what's the bottom line for people?
So for that ERV, people are certainly being affected, but I don't have a clear understanding, and Ron, jump in if you do, of this $100,000 worth of controls that isn't in the system, how that's showing itself, because I don't know of any other complaints of too hot, too cold, not enough air, too much air, for $100,000 worth.
Right,
Right.
that's a lot of.
It-
You get somebody that's gonna come in every day and turn the thermostats up and down, depending on what people ask them to do. I mean,
Right.
So it sounds like you're gonna get a full-time guy from veterans.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean,
I agree,
mean,
I
what's
agree.
the- yeah, I don't know what the scope is.
So-
It's crazy.
And it's been behind the scenes, veterans and the engineer have been kind of duking it out, and now it's starting to surface. This issue, there was an RFI issued in the summer. And I don't know if you remember like in the punch list originally, veterans, if any of you remember any copies of the punch list, veterans had a huge chunk of those punch list items, and they were all commissioning type items, and it all has to do with this. And it might be where if Beth turns on the system on the computer, how many points she can see, how many points she can play with, how many things like that. And if they want the graphics a certain way that we don't have now.
Perfect exactly as it is, except resting on the roof doesn't work.
Right. So if that's the short answer, if while the engineer and veterans are duking it out and Beth raises her hand and says, we're good, then this might all go away. And so the ERV has
Except
to,
they have to make it work.
yes, the
Yeah,
ERV is a separate thing.
I know how, but it's not physically through the computer because it's stopped. I can't open a damper to bring in more fresh air to the second floor. And since they did whatever turnover, I haven't gone back to see if I can lower the entire set point for the building. Because right now it's locked in at 70 to 74 degrees and we want it at like 68.
Veterans are saying this was hit by lightning, it's not us. In my offline, I went back to Paul and I said, does this really have to do with the ERV or does this have to do with the $100,000 charge? And my thinking is if the $100,000 charge was resolved, then this ERV issue would be resolved with it. I don't know that that's the sense I get. And so right now we're waiting for Tyler, the engineer, to respond to this $100,000 control charge. I imagine, because the question was raised and he already answered it. So now the question is being raised with a price tag. Sure, he's going to answer it in a similar way. And so, but then when an answer comes back, my next response would be, what is this $100,000 going to get us that we don't have now, and how is it going to be better for the user? If it's going to be different but no better, then I would say, well, we don't do it. But the ERV is separate, whether it's an insurance claim or a warranty item. It's going to get fixed one way or the other.
It's right and set off fire alarm.
Yeah, it did the pictures. I mean, it
Yeah.
was burnt up, and sometimes like things like that happen. And it's a warranty item, and you fix it and you move
Right.
on.
Right.
Is the lighting item?
Different.
But
That's a
veterans
separate
has asked
system.
for CTA's bonding, company, and they've got it set up for a fight. CTA just wants it resolved. CTA wants to just finish and leave. And leave with everybody happy with, doing everything that they can, but they want no part of this fight. And so I just wanted, after these items, there's still this thing, this elephant in the room, just kind of hanging out there.
Veterans, the same company who also did do the flush out and provide all the data for the flush out, necessitating the air quality testing.
Right,
It was all part of the commissioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they couldn't do the commissioning based on the equipment? Like, I don't understand.
It was. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
that's when
okay.
all these things came up, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if the engineer was just saying his specs call for A, B, and C, and veterans are saying, well, this equipment can't do that. What you specified can't do it, and the engineer saying, well, you need to make it do that. And so that's where the disconnect.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
Okay. So that's
Mark.
out there.
Whoa.
So that's out there. The Ferrari and that's office is out there. And the gate.
They have to go counter talk? Has that been resolved?
Being resolved. So
Okay.
Ron is working with CTA, and I'm making this number up, but say 15 counters have to be lowered. 3 of them during the submittal process were picked up by DRA's office that, hey, these 3 need to be lowered. And they weren't. They were installed at the same height as everything else. So they gave a quote to Ron's office, and Ron wants them to reduce it by those 3 counters. And so, but they're working that out.
Great.
Okay. So
Yeah,
they haven't
I've-
moved any of them there.
No,
Okay.
I've also asked in a recent email that you may not have seen yet, Mark, to meet with, I originally had asked to walk through with the mill worker before he provided a pricing.
Right.
To make sure he understood what I was asking in those drawings. And that didn't take place. So in an email I sent earlier this evening, I had asked Paul to arrange either a walkthrough or a Zoom meeting so that I can understand what's in their pricing. I want to make sure that what's being priced is what we asked for, because there were a couple of items in their estimate and quote that, for example, I asked for some items to be altered in place. And they said, oh, no, it's easier just to rebuild it. Well, fine, it's easier to rebuild it, but is it $20,000 more? So those are some of the questions I want to, I need to resolve with CTA.
okay.
Ron, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else, Ron?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to step out for a second. So in addition to the millwork Mark had sent out an email of some outstanding items, such as punch lists and whatnot. So I have that list. I'm working through it with Ken. And we'll schedule a walkthrough for the punch list. And we'll be working on those other items to resolve to get this whole thing wrapped up for you as soon as we can.
So we're still meeting every other week, but now Ron, myself and Paul we're gonna have one or two side conversations this week to get through these things, to get through the veterans issue, to get through the remaining punch list items, and just kind of keep pushing until we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I did reach out again to our mechanical engineer about the veterans item for the HVAC and said, I need a response. I need an answer back on this. And I did respond to your email about getting together this Friday afternoon with you and Paul.
Okay.
We're still waiting for our final certificate of occupancy because of the same items. Okay,
The shower's fixed.
the shower's fixed. Good.
Shower's complete. And I think there was a fire extinguisher thing that's done, complete. Hanging and signage and. Halfway.
Does anybody have any questions for Mark or Ron? HPC done, we all set? Talked about the roof screening. Is there anything
Yes,
else?
I'll report what we had. For those of you that did not or weren't able to attend the subcommittee meeting, we decided to put the screening on hold due to the cost, that it was between 50 to 54,000, regardless if the material is wrought iron or the extruded plastic for the fencing or the railing. And so I will bring that back to the committee to address that at a later time. We can't afford it right now. And possibly there'll be additional monies if we get LEED certification, and if this project is put as a priority, that may allow some funds for that. So that's where that stands.
Ribbon cutting ceremony, which is now December 17th. Anybody want to talk to that?
Did anyone get an invitation?
I think an email came today.
Did you get one? I wasn't invited.
Ron's a donor, so it went out to friends 2 days ago, donors
Oh, okay.
this morning, and it'll go to the rest of our email list tomorrow, but I don't know the status of like all the other people we have. Fine. And they mailed some today, but I don't know if that was to all the companies, to individuals.
So it's hard to know how many people are going to be invited.
Yeah. I'll make sure that this whole committee, the select board, HDC, planning conservation, that they all get an email tomorrow, if that has not happened. And then I said I would follow up on the list, because we wanted to invite all the contractors and subcontractors as well. So it is scheduled.
I want to get veterans
I was
married.
gonna say.
Beth and I are gonna
Definitely
go right up to
them.
Tell me about these.
So it is scheduled for Friday the 17th at 11 a.m. I believe both Representative Moradia and State Senator Moore are going to speak. Someone from MBLC, Aaron Schraub, one of the newest commissioners, is going to speak for MBLC. I think Doug and Dana, you guys are off the hook. I'll wrap up at the end. Evan, we asked Evan to speak. If anyone else wants to talk, I
He's gonna get.
keep it short. We're gonna I believe that the donor wall will not unfortunately be in place because they would have lost the opportunity to proofread it one more time, and we're not comfortable with that.
No.
You want to get over it,
A
right?
lot of names there, yeah.
Yeah.
But I heard that the plaque is ordered and coming. So hopefully the dedication plaque will be here when
Plaque
we
and sign
dedicate.
in front,
the
supposed to be
building.
in.
Good.
I'm working on an hour's sign for the glass door, windows outside of the doors for both sides.
You don't have to.
Do a mock-up.
dedication, you can do a mock-up.
Yeah, Sometimes when great.
You know, they'll print it on a, you know, they'll give it some thickness, you know, it's not gonna be a piece of paper,
Mhm.
and put it on an easel, and we've done that before sometimes. Especially the metal signs, sometimes. It takes a lot, right?
So do we have to post a meeting officially, John?
Say again,
Do we have to post a meeting for the ribbon cutting?
I did, it's posted.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I will for trustees.
Okay.
There's gonna be 200 goodie bags, so get there early. You'll have a cupcake to go because we can't eat on site. And if it's nice, we'll be outside as much as we can or in the patio space and, you know, cram in whoever we can.
Patio for the team,
Oh,
which
that
came out
looks
great.
so great, I haven't walked
Yeah,
over there
yeah,
yet,
it's
but
really
I've
good.
driven by,
Yeah.
it, so nice, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to help assemble those two.
Oh, thank you. We're gonna put a pen in them and a book, we're getting a book, a custom bookmark, I think. and- Yeah.
I can come up with Saturday morning and stuff back too.
Next is-
I don't know when it's gonna be.
Yeah, they may be doing it Thursday. Oh, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know. Who knows? Nobody.
I come Thursday after school, let me know, keep me posted. if you need
Okay,
another thing.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so short and sweet, an hour, we'll get the press there. What do I do with my other list of expenses? So I mentioned the children's furniture, we'll go to Capital Campaign. Capital Campaign decided it wanted a curved desk out there. We had one and we moved it upstairs and we really needed it upstairs, but they went and bought or ordered another desk. They really put down a lot of slack. PS5, we still can't get our hands on. William got the Wii that we wanted and locking cabinets, but I haven't seen any of that. So I don't know where it is. You got the bill?
The walking cabinet.
Two locking cabinets and a Wii. No, okay. I asked for mini fridges, you were gonna order them, they didn't get ordered. He said he's not ordering them until he knows we have project money, and then I had to go beg the Capital Campaign to give me $600 to buy 3 mini fridges. None of our public spaces have cabinets or drawers that lock. Here, in the lobby, in the YA room, in the children's program room, and upstairs in 219. We don't want to take out cabinet doors and do millwork and do something really fancy, but we have to have some kind of a key and lock or combination lock system to prevent the public from going through and taking things that are already stealing remotes and chargers from the
my
building.
God.
Oh, yeah. Middle schoolers are my favorite people in the world.
Okay, so
So I,
Would you just put that in for, I mean, that seems like something.
What?
the
600,
lock-
yeah.
the locking,
I don't know what I don't know what the solution is. Is it literally a?
if we gotta like have our custodian come up with something, because no offense, we don't need CPA or you guys to drag this out, right? So these are like above and beyond past the project, because we didn't think of it in part of the project. I had asked for sound domes for the gaming space to go one over each gaming setup, but it's something else that just kind of disappeared into the ether, and with people coming off a project, whose job is it now to go find it and secure it? And William has been really helpful, and I still need to get him numbers on our hanging rail system, which apparently is out of scope of project, and our additional. It's to go in this room to hold, well, this room will have just wires because the chair rail around the room can hold wires for artwork. Doesn't have gallery space. But if we we were supposed to have it in the children's room, children's program room, and the maker space. Yeah, so if we could put some opposite the elevator, you know, any place, I think above the public computers upstairs, any place where there's enough space. you know, to run rail and hang it. So Ron provided all the specs, but I still haven't gone to the company to say, how much is all of this? To bring it to someone to say, how are we gonna pay for it? Capital Campaign is gonna pay for the hour sign on the door. That's $400.
It doesn't sound like you need any more money right now.
Not yet,
Okay, okay.
but what happens when I
But
do?
it's- yeah.
Who do I go to first? 'Cause I have money. I have the friends who feel like they've given a lot. The trustees who are sitting on money but are using it to fulfill staffing gaps. Capital Campaign, which has deep pockets, but only so far, and some of their money isn't in hand, it's just promised. And so I might not be able to do all this year. And then what residual money is left with this project that I can say,
There
this
isn't
is,
very much left. I mean,
yeah, it
we're
doesn't
at
sound like
40,
it.
Yeah. I feel like
We're at
you're
38 now, or something like that.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I also think like live in the building a little bit. Like I know it's awesome and you want it to be perfect right now. But like I think that some of the stuff just, maybe that's just my opinion, but like, you know, just live in the space for a little bit and then as money comes up, then you can.
I can't unpack boxes because I don't have shelves in staff offices.
Show
Like,
it's
that's
coming, though,
urgent.
right?
No, I don't mean like shelving procured through Tucker. I mean
Wall shelving.
Home Depot
brackets.
Lowe's style bracket wall shelving that was, you know, called out, but then never procured. So now the town has to buy it and someone has to pay for it. And we're tripping over boxes because we don't have a place to put our stuff. But I can't order it until I get a quote and then find out who's paying.
I think that in particular was always meant to be an FF&E item. It wasn't a millwork item.
Yeah, but if we're out of FF&E money.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Right. But that's why it wasn't,
yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't see it.
Except the difficulty is that the project is done.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm hearing is that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when our money dries up, this committee's gonna dry up. And then you're gonna have to go to the town.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you ask them to create another committee.
Well, I don't see it getting, I'm not gonna get anything for 20 years, at least. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they,
That's another question, how much longer? This committee going?
Like not forever?
Right? Is that what we were
What are you
saying?
gonna do with my money?
Then
You start to look at it.
the one that I joined, that was like,
So I think what we stay together until the punch list stuff, right? Or no?
For sure.
Till we get our final completion. And then, and everything's closed out, then yeah.
We're probably gonna need February. meeting.
and then we can get called up on any, at any
Right.
time.
to come close the attic door.
Yes, right.
Oh my
right.
gosh,
It still works.
it's still closed,
It
right?
is still closed. I look
I
almost
told them
every
to go
You
morning.
heard about that,
Yeah,
that was trippy,
yeah.
Well, it's the handle in there is damaged.
yeah.
So, yeah, what I heard back was, yeah, it's fine, it's closed now. I'm like, no, you open it and it's like the handles
It's
and the
closed, it's like
hinges,
jammed it shut.
and we didn't break it, like, it was broken,
Yeah.
so that's why we couldn't close it.
Yeah.
It
And
was
it
so
needs to be
freaky to
repaired.
drive by, the hatch open and lit up, like,
Right, right.
Right,
like
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's lit up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
nobody knows, but I feel like if it rained the night before, and I feel like that it.
What about, Mark, things that dropped off the punch list that I thought really were punch lists, like installing the staff room dishwasher? Like it, how much, how
Is that like
long
a- is
feels
that
like
FF&E?
pushing for
I think
that?
that's FF&E. So we can reconcile did you get the last list, the 12 to 14?
I did, and I was like,
Okay.
yeah, but the dishwasher and the tile and the children's program room doors on backwards. I did see they're gonna replace 228
Way back on.
Yeah.
with their full glass.
So check, so we just need to reconcile the Google Doc against that. And if there's things like, the dishwasher is actually an FF&E thing, it's not CCA, but it was on a list, so bring it up and we'll just go through it and, yeah.
I might just send you an email.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
And
We
people
do
who
have to do
are
it.
here at the library, January 3rd.
We, I think, have a holiday. Because it's a Saturday holiday.
All right, so we can't meet January 3rd.
January 10th.
Yeah, so January.
Yeah,
I started to look that up and I got sidetracked.
yeah, I forget. It's a Saturday holiday, which I think actually means Friday, but I don't.
Yeah, 'cause I think we're
There
at
are some
school.
kind of floating you
School
can.
is, we have school, right?
Yeah, school
Okay.
is the 3rd.
So should we keep the
School
3rd?
goes back on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, then we must be.
So the
Yeah.
3rd.
How often special just for all of you?
I want to be.
I don't know why we do
closed. Yeah, I want to
Right.
read it out.
That baby me.
January 3rd, Dawson Beach, and Chelsea Spa. February 7th.
6 o'clock.
Is our
Yeah,
last
6 o'clock.
meeting. Is
So I make a
February 7th?
motion to adjourn at 7:53 PM.
I second it.
Excellent job tonight. Excellent job.
I'm an excellent second.
I roll call that.
Aye.
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 John,
I
Maureen,
Aye.
and I.
So Amy, are you on our distribution list? Okay, great. So I just sent an email. Hopefully you got it. Minutes. I just sent 2. Another one. Awesome.